Oh, man, I love that little intro there. That is fantastic. What is going on, everybody? This is Marco and Danny. This is called Off the Air and On the Record. Very excited tonight to put somebody on the record that I love very much, that I've gotten to know a lot better. Actually grew up listening to a little bit. And then as I grew up, we were almost pretty much same age, but started very young in radio, just like me. So I am super excited. But first, let's just get into a little bit here as we start our, what is this, the third episode?
This is.
Wow. This is crazy. You don't know, I am Marco. I do morning radio in Toledo, Ohio at K100. This is my sister, Danny, who does mornings at K103 in Frederick, Maryland. The only, as far as I know, I'm going to keep saying this, by the way, until somebody can prove us wrong. The only brother-sister morning show combo, I think, in the history of what's going on. At least we're on this show together, so we're kind of doing a show together. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. We'll run with it.
Yeah, I like how you're decked out in the radio station garb. Look at that Key 103 hat. Well, you're like, dude, I'm representing tonight.
I worked, was on the air this morning. Just got off of work not too long ago, about 10 minutes ago. Had to do an event tonight, so yeah.
All right, well, very good. Getting rave reviews for your interview of me, which was very good. Did
rave reviews by you?
Well, I mean, a lot of my friends were like, yeah.
Well, and let me just say, you wouldn't let us go live because I think you were worried I wasn't going to do a good job.
I wasn't worried that you weren't going to do a good job. I was worried that I was going to say something off the wall. No, I'm just kidding. That's not your first ever interview, but
no.
But of a radio legend.
Probably the first time I've ever interviewed you like that, but
yeah. It was good. Well, you did fantastic. And today we'll double team somebody that we've actually now both worked with. I'm super excited about tonight's show. He's an amazing radio personality. He has done so much in the radio space. I can't wait to pick his brain, see what's going on. And we are about to take both of our very good friend Stash off the air and put him on the record. Oh, look at that, man. I can't believe we have a little another open there. Were you digging that?
Hi there.
Hey.
Well, I think maybe you were worried when you were being interviewed about some level of exposure, because when you have the deep, dark family secrets, they can come out. And maybe you don't even know they're going to come out, but they just do. So guarded is probably the best way to play that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Especially in my family.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard him mainly on 98 Rock for the better part of 20 years. You've worked all over the Bay in Maryland. You were huge there. Now we covered two different ways to do radio. As far as I did the whole move all across the country, worked in probably 20 states. You have sort of maintained a regional aspect, and tell us just a little bit from when you started to where we're at now here, Stash.
I went to College Park. I didn't have any idea that I was going to end up on the radio when I started college. I was chasing a business degree, and my dad was a businessman. And so I really didn't have any ambition, to be honest with you. So I was going to follow him, and that's what he wanted me to do. And so it wasn't really for me. And I went for the party. Let's be serious. I was 17. I got into Maryland with a 2.8 in high school. So I wasn't coming to let the world know I was an academic superstar. I came to try to survive semester by semester by making the minimum cut.
It's got to freak you out now that people actually don't get into Maryland. Smart kids don't even get into Maryland. It's crazy.
They don't. No, and my business degree looks better every year.
Yeah.
Even though it means nothing because I got it in 1988. So now if you get a business degree, you get a whole different world of stuff to work with. I mean, I got my degree before the internet and cell phones. So imagine how the marketing has changed over the years.
Yep.
Hey, my marketing degree, look at this. It's a piece of paper, man. But what it did do for me is give me a little bit of courage to try something different. And when radio presented an opportunity in College Park at WMUC, look, I did a semester where I taped a few things, and it was right before I graduated too. It was like 87 and 88. And Kirk McEwen he was my RA in my dorm. He had already gone to 98 Rock. He left school without a degree to take a job full time at 98 Rock. at 19. He got the first job he was 19. He became full-time when he was 20 and actually left school. And he was getting pretty much a free ride because he was an RA. So he had a terrific scene. And this is mid-'80s. And by 1988, I was sniffing around in there too because I had myself... Hey, now, there we are. That's 1988, 89 right there. And that's an Orioles party when they played at Memorial Stadium.
Is that you with a lot of hair?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at you. How old are you in that picture?
That's a lot of hair. That's not any hair.
Well, I mean...
Well, I think I still have a little bit of hair thanks to Nioxin. No, that Kirk doesn't look any different, and I look like I'm a little kid there now that I've aged a minute. I haven't actually emotionally grown up to my age, but I'm getting closer, you know. And in that case right there, Joan Jett was there that night. She's a big Orioles fan and loves baseball so much. And she was there at that Orioles little private party before the game. And that's why we were there. But nice. I got to be right in the middle of it right away. And I'm 24 in that picture, you know, and I'm excited to be anywhere, believe me. And, you know, to be getting paid to be part of the party and then to be full time. And the timing, look, radio is about timing. Everyone should know that before you ever approach it, because if it's not there, it's not there. And if it is, you have to seize the moment, because otherwise it might not be there again, or they may move by you, go, you know, to whoever's next on deck. And in my case, there were several part-time people at the time, man, but when Russ wanted to get younger and wanted to launch a couple of the old-timers out of the, you know, driver's seat, one of them was the overnight guy. He just sounded like he was mailing it in, and Russ was like, see ya. And so that dude ended up on, and he was, you know, and when I was in high school, he was one of the guys on the air. I listened to this guy in high school, then I took his job. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, stunning to me, because I didn't think I was worthy of it, for one. I didn't think I was good enough in any kind of way. I was just kind of trying to, you know, survive day to day, week to week. And then all of a sudden, man, you're in the middle of it, and things are starting to catch on. Like any job, if you do it enough, you'll get some rhythm and some hang of it. And I got the opportunity is what happened.
So you're talking about Russ Motley. He was the program director. So you stayed at 98 Rock. How long?
I stayed there 24 years.
24 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you worked with some legends. We talked about Kirkster, but Sarah Flesher was also there when you were there.
One of my best friends.
And you had a lot. Lopez was just a fantastic. I mean, that whole staff.
Also one of my best friends, yeah.
When you look back now, as you get a little bit older and you've done radio for quite some time now, when you look back, man, I mean, just think about the talent that was in that building.
Oh, the quality of people when I first got there was so overwhelming, man. Ron Smith was doing afternoon drive on the AM, on the talk show, and I'm across the hall when I finally did land in afternoons, and I stayed there for most of my career, 3 to 7. And he was the voice of reason, 2 steps away, with the voice that was just unbelievably coming out of a human being, and second of all, with a mind to match, you know. And then as time went on, man, that building was an amazing place to work, always. But people started getting sick one by one, and they have still, I think, have some sort of problem within, because Lopez had, look, he was 52 when he had non-small cell carcinoma. He wasn't a smoker. He drank, but, you know, he's 50 years old. He had lung cancer that he died from in 18 months. And then so many news people had organ cancer that was unexplained, like Ken Manellis, kidney cancer, gone, 48 years old. Ed Russell, guy who was skating in rollerblades up and down the parking lot, ends up with some kind of crazy brain thing and goes out. Dave Urbane, engineer, 50 years old, 50, lived in Padonia, like the Padonia Village apartments right there. 50 years old, another unexplained cancer, and died. Ann Artis, our traffic director, who took one of my dogs, got bone cancer and died. Dude, Lori Smith, our promotion director, had bile duct cancer. I'm telling you, I'm not even close to the end of the list.
Wow.
So, you know, and Danny, you know, this building is overwhelming in its intensity because it has a so huge tower outside with every TV station in the market flying off of it in the broadcast part. And then lots of radio stations also up there. Mix 106.5 is up there, and 98 Rock is up there.
I worked at B104, and B104 was right over there.
And it's the tallest structure in town, but it happens to be in the backyard of the Hearst Broadcast Center.
Right.
So if you spend 6-7 days a week in there for years and years and years, what? all those things that are unseen, how can they not affect you? How can they not be part of, and if you have any kind of, look, I don't want to take this in this crazy direction, but if you have any kind of proclivity to, or any kind of predisposition to something, activating something within you, boy, this is the place to have it jump started and kicked off. It was terrible. I always thought about it. I always did, ever since Lopez, for real. I started thinking about it because I just couldn't get it. I mean, I knew him so well, and he wasn't a healthy guy, but when you're 52, you don't smoke, you don't really get lung cancer much, and it didn't make any sense. And man, he walked me through it like I was standing next to him the whole way. It was really, really unbelievable. And then, so we've had a lot of great legends come through there, and some of them, hey, look, some of them are still there, you know?
So you went from 98 Rock, and then when that was over, where did you go to next? Give me how we get to Toledo here.
Oh man, well I went to 98 Rock ended. I went to Q94 in Central Pennsylvania, and it was people are like, what? It was a step into a different size market. Let's put it that way. Yeah. I went to State College, Altoona, Johnstown, and I took the job because I didn't really have, look, there were 2 rock stations in Baltimore, and I was done with one of them. So the other one hadn't called me back yet, and I needed to work. And so, and it was within, at the time, I didn't have any aspirations to move far away that were real. I had these delusions. Like I went to Phoenix. I chased a job in Phoenix, and I was all ready to go. And then, I had some things to take care of at home that I couldn't, loosen up and take off. Like I had a family still, and kids in high school, and, problems galore. So, when you leave a job, anything can be, a wild card. So that was going on. And I also had an ex-wife that our relationship was unmanageable. So we were falling apart at the seams, and everything else was happening.
Sure.
And so, people go through peaks and valleys in their life, and this was my valley for sure. And then I went to Q94. I left my ex-wife and moved out. And I was also the entertainment director at Fantasies nightclub in Baltimore. And during that time, I got to know top 40 and hip hop music pretty well. And look, dancers want to hear Rihanna, Chris Brown, Future. They don't want to hear AC/DC that much. Sometimes, but not that much. So I was that guy. And as time went on for a year or two, I got an offer from 100.7 The Bay, and I didn't apply there. They called me, which was really interesting because I got a call from Dan Michaels, the program director, who I wanted to work for anyway. He'd been in Kansas City, Houston, Chicago, Denver. I thought, I want to work for him. And if he likes me, man, oh, wow. All right, now I feel pretty good. So I took the job as afternoon drive guy at 100.7 The Bay at the end of 2015. And I worked there until 2020. And when they offered me the morning show in 2018, there we are. Tom Green came to see me by himself, and which I thought was great. No minder, just, cab, Uber, whatever, up to the station.
That's crazy.
Jumped out and, showed up at the front door. And that's who he is, I loved it. So we hung out all morning. He put me on his Instagram. And I worked there for 4 years, man, and change. And when they moved me to mornings, I knew that's walking the plank in that place. And
usually a morning drive. I've tried to get to morning drive in my radio career. It took me about 10 years to finally get there. Been doing it ever since. But normally that's a huge promotion. But you didn't like it, or why was that a death sentence?
Because it had always been a death sentence. Because that station was handicapped in so many ways. They didn't get a whole county. They didn't get Harford County in a metro where you got 5 counties and you're missing one, and you're competing with big flamethrowers that are playing the same music you're playing. Good luck. So, and be spotty in places that you can't afford to be. Like in main drags where like 895, people will call me in the morning and say, dude, you just went out, I was listening to you, you were telling that story, and then I lost you on 895. I'm like, oh, on 895? Come on, I have to have that. That's like mad traffic, and if everyone's bailing, well, great.
Yeah.
Oh, great. It's a people meter market.
Yeah.
So the second people bail, anybody with a meter, you found that one. Mm-hmm. Anybody with a meter is gone and not coming back probably. And their signal also drops off of your your measure. The Don Wells picture that we just had up there is incredible because we at the Bay had this great advantage where we were next to a big hotel. And the building was across the parking lot from that Delta Marriott right at the exit of Hunt Valley. And if you've ever been in Baltimore, it's just north on Interstate 83 out of town. And it's one of the first couple exits. It's right there. And they have these nostalgia conventions there where all these superstars from your past life come and stay there and sell merch, books, sign autographs, take pictures. Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island came. And at the time when she came, she was by herself, first of all. And there's another picture that I don't know if I posted, but there's a picture that makes us look like we were more of a couple.
Well, you look close there in that one. I got to be honest.
We got closer.
You were hanging out.
We got closer. We got.
Well, I mean,
she was 80, Marco.
I
swear to God, dude.
She was stranded on an island. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Well, in that picture, she's stranded in my studio and she's 80. And she's working on a tape. She wanted to do some kind of like voice tape audition for something.
Yeah.
And I, of course, said, I'll walk you through that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Let's walk over here to my studio.
The old casting couch?
Yeah. Across the parking lot. We worked on it for hours.
Yeah, I bet.
And everything she did, she would turn around and be like, how was that? And I was like, oh, that was awesome. Oh, that was so good. Let's try it this way. That was great. And, you know, in order to keep her going, keep her in there, we had to keep trying it a different way. You know?
Of course, yeah.
That was really fantastic. But can we try it one more time this way?
She's like, I really like this voice work, but it's like hours of hours of time.
And then when she reached up to kiss me, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow.
See, I don't know if you're telling the truth. I can never tell when you're actually bull.
She kissed me, Marco. Those Mary Ann lips landed.
Hey, man. Good for you.
I'm not kidding you, man. And I was stunned as well. And then she said, I'm going to be 80 in June. I said, oh, God, I'm going to be whatever I am. And it's not quite that.
Not 80.
No.
Right, so
I'd be the first person around her in a long time that didn't need the hymns.com site.
Yeah, but that's fresh in the browser history there. All right. So how did you get from Baltimore to Toledo where you and I work together here?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I haven't had a job for a while. And I was working on a stream. I was working on New HD New York, which was WNEW, the old legendary WNEW. Really a priceless thing for me because the last 2 years it kept my iron hot. I flew to Milwaukee and almost landed that one at KLH, which, by the way, Marco, I know you were there at the time, but man, that afternoon show they ended up hiring is number one. I mean, the station itself.
The station is number one.
It's number one. When I went there, they weren't even doing Nielsen ratings. Like they weren't Bob Bellini, the GM, had told me that they weren't relying on ratings. And that was really attractive to me. I'm like, wait a second. We don't have to sweat ratings? Oh, we just have to make money? Okay, we'll do that. That's fine. And so that's the premise I was going to be coming out there on, is that ratings weren't even going to be part of it. Yeah. Eventually they had to, succumb to the Nielsen monster and participate in the ratings to be able to keep up with sales. Yeah. And they did. And it was an advantage for them because they already knew they were killing it. And so they show up number one,
Yeah, they were definitely. It's so funny. I think God wanted you and I to work together because I was in that building. Mm-hmm. Actually applied for the same job there, actually. And you were there, and we were almost going to work together there. And then I come to Toledo and, of course, was instrumental in bringing you here because I know how talented you are. You were friends with my sister. And so when I was at B104 in Baltimore, I was 18. You were on the air in 98 Rock, and I know my sister worked there. And so, obviously we're closer in age, but man, I just still see you as so much of a legend because, dude, you were killing it on 98 Rock. And I remember actually in our school, you might not even know this, but in our school, the "see ya," that became like a thing we did to everybody. That was something that you kind of just, how you used to sign off.
Oh, yeah, man. All I can say is "see ya."
Yeah. And, that was, so you were, obviously huge there. So now you step from just being behind the microphone to doing a number of jobs, but one of those jobs is being the program director. So did you ever think you'd get into programming? Did you want to get into programming?
I didn't think I would.
How do you like programming?
It's a club, believe me. And it's a very tough barrier to penetrate if you don't have previous experience. It's not something they just let you do or let you try, very often. And to Cumulus' credit, they are very patient with new program directors. In fact, they have some openings around the country even because the people aren't out there anymore. You know what? It's true.
We should make this like a job ad calling. All right, what do we got?
It's unbelievable. They listed in the call the other day of the Classic Rock. Every week we go on this Zoom call, Teams meeting with like 50 program directors from around the country. And James Kurtzel, who was at KQ in Minneapolis, now just got the job at Q101 Chicago. He's the vice president of Classic Rock, the format, and alternative also. So he's doing 2 formats now. But the Classic Rock, he's been my guy since the beginning. And this is my first real programming job. I mean, I've been interim guy a couple times, but never had the title on my business card. Yeah. And had the keys to the logs every single day. Yeah. And had nobody to have to ask any permission really for anything about what I do. Large me, trim John Bon Jovi, as always. That was when I went on an eating binge.
Did you eat Richie Sambora? What happened? Who's in the middle?
No, look, in the 90s, I smoked just a ton of weed.
Well, I see the cigarette in your hand there. That's
I smoked a lot of weed. Is it a cigarette or is it a pen or a cigarette?
Who knows?
It's a pen. It's a pen.
Oh, is it a pen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because actually, Richie had a solo album, and he was there, and I loved his solo album. So I had a separate moment with Richie.
Yeah.
And then, well, look, John Bon Jovi over the years became somebody that I bumped into a lot in rock radio. And then I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and did his induction. And I was in the press room with him and the whole band. I've got some unbelievable pictures. 2018 in Cleveland. I showed up on Friday. We went to a private party with John and Richie and John Lodge from the Moody Blues and a couple other people. And I was there, most importantly, I was there because Rick Ocasek and the Cars were going in, and Rick Ocasek had become my friend too. So, but John, not friend, knew, you know, I mean, you know, acquaintance, whatever, you know who your real friends are, but and John Bon Jovi's, you know, just a good dude, period.
Yeah.
Outside of being a rock star, you know, him and his wife do so many charitable things. He treats his fans fantastic. There's a lot of special events for his really hardcore fans, you know, let them get up close. And, you know, the Soul Kitchen restaurants in New Jersey where you don't have to pay if you can't afford to pay. You do what you can. You know, you pay what you want.
Right.
There's no price on the menu. There's 2 locations now. One's in Tom's River. I've been to that one. But John was there, and he was talking, and, you know, there were plenty of press in the room. But I got his attention with something. One thing that he did in his career that I thought was amazing was he would take unsigned and sometimes just signed bands out that were just looking for familiarity and put them on arena stages as his support. You know, opening for Bon Jovi. Take him on a full American tour. He did it for SR-71. Did it for Mitch Allen, Jeff Reed, you know, John Allen, my buddies in SR-71, who had a minor hit on the radio, but he took them out on a major tour.
Wow.
And they played everywhere, and they got huge familiarity from that. And he would offer that to lots of different bands over time. So in the press room, I brought that up to him, and I said, man, he changed a lot of people's whole trajectory in their career by being able to offer them that. And it gave him a chance to tell people why he did it. And, you know, other bands weren't doing it. Okay, you know, they just weren't at the time. You know, it was a really gracious and generous thing to do. So, and plus, cool. his might, you know, as a headliner, you know, he could pretty much call the shots and come any way he felt like coming. You know, he could put a turd up there for the opening act, and it could be steaming for 20 minutes, and that could be your that opener was powerful. Woo! But John Bon Jovi, and that night he actually had us on stage when the tour came through DC. It was at the Capital One Arena. He had us on stage, and my ex-wife was there. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the back jump. There was a jumbotron in the back as well. I'm looking up, and the camera was on us. And he came over, and he was doing the song in These Arms. I love you, I need you, I'll get down on my hands and knees for you. And then he pulls my ex-wife up on stage, gets down on his knees, and like sings the song to her on the jumbotron. I'm like, no, of all the people here, I gotta be hearing that an hour all the way home now. Because oh Jesus, she was the chosen one.
Oh boy, well the girls loved Bon Jovi, so I bet you never heard the end of that.
Man, I never heard the end of it from some of my buddies out in the crowd. Like, did you set that up, dude? What's that all about? I'm like, no, I didn't. He must have been looking at my ex-wife. I swear to God, because it made no sense to me at all. But yeah.
That is good. Well, we appreciate you spending some time with us, and you've had a great radio career. Give us some of, you've been a lot of promotions. You've been in a lot of great events. What is one thing you remember specifically as one of the best things that you've done in radio?
Oh my God, the Grammys, for sure. The Grammys was a parade of superstars, and my table was between Opie and Anthony and the WEBN morning show from Cincinnati that Kid Chris does now.
Yeah.
Stunning room of talent in this room in Rosen Ballroom in New York. And I just, sitting there, humble as could be, couldn't think of how I got to that spot. It was pretty crazy. And I interviewed so many superstars through that week, including people like Steve Winwood, Jamie Foxx. You're in New York City. Anybody could stop by. All the Matchbox 20 guys became friendly with me. My table was an open smoking table. I allowed smoking at my table, which was very magnetic. Just see what was it was actually, this was like 98, but 97, but very magnetic for some of these guys, including Rob Thomas, believe it or not, from Matchbox 20, who has his golden pipes, man, but he smokes like crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know a lot of other guys that smoke too, if you want to hear about some of them. Joey.
All the dirt.
And then I know guys who don't want it anywhere near them, like Paul Rogers, man. Bad company. Don't smoke in his vicinity. Oh, my.
Well, that sounds like you learned a lesson. What happened? You're like,
No,
hey, man,
I just saw him. He was one of the first people I ever saw close smoking off in a club. And I watched him between his set and the encore, and he had a tea set up on the side of the stage. He didn't come off and bang a bunch of gackers like Phil Collins. He came off and drank some hot tea and went back up. Phil Collins used to have a little go in, nip and sharpen yourself room. He'd go in for a little, it was like when the band's rocking out, it was this little structure that was it was almost like a sushi bar curtain sort of like thing. And it was like a curtain, and he would run behind that and blast up. And then I was with Greg Allman one night, and he came off stage, and he ran back into the dressing room, left the door wide open, dumped a whole baggie full of white powder onto the mirror, and the band was in a jam,
Yeah.
one of the longest in almond jams.
Yeah.
And he came, zapped up a whole bunch, came out with Dunkin' Donuts face, straight back out to his piano, man.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, hell yeah! I can't believe I just saw that. That was awesome.
Oh, man, that is. So you've seen some stuff.
He was one of my favorite people, dude. Greg Allman was one of my favorite people. God, they did an album about mushrooms. The Allman Brothers did in the mid-'90s called Mycology, the study of fungi.
Yeah.
And so when he came on with me to talk about it, it was off the chain. It was like he had done some right before the interview. And he was the sweetest man ever. And there were a lot of ways I started to know him over years of talking to him. And I used to love to hear him say the word soul shine. And Soul Shine was a song that the Allman Brothers did. Government Mule also does it. Warren Haynes was in the Allman Brothers. It's his band, Government Mule. It's a beautiful, beautiful. Soul Shine is one of my favorite songs ever. Look it up. And it's so, so fantastic. But Greg, whenever I'd say, you going to do Soul Shine? Is that in the set tonight, Greg? He'd say, Soul Shine. Oh, yeah. I say, Greg, how's Elijah Blue doing? Oh, he's doing fine.
Oh, damn.
And then there's Ozzy, who for me was.
Well, Ozzy looks like he's 17 in that picture.
Oh, that was a challenging night because he had been somewhere and had.
Why is that not hard to believe?
Yeah.
He said it was the pollution, is what he was telling me. But that's not the case at all. He was still doing pills at the time. He had a rough night with his voice. He was coughing directly into the microphone, which, unless you're doing Sweet Leaf and it's Black Sabbath, come on. I mean, he would seriously bark one straight in. Like, wow. I was like, what? Yeah. And then back there, I was like, Oz, what was going on there? He's like, oh, the pollution. I was in New York City, the pollution. There's a pollution. I was like, okay.
All right,
whatever
man.
you say, man.
So let me ask you, because doing 98 Rock for 24 years, and people always is the stop on the tour of when you're going around. How do you become more friends? Because you spend maybe half hour, 40 minutes with people. How does that progress for you?
You get them drugs.
That's pretty much how you do
Well,
it.
that's how you do it. No, in some cases, that keeps them coming back all the time.
Well, there you go.
You
There
know
you go.
that. Well, I mean, sure, there was some drug, shared enthusiasm in some cases. I
Yeah.
became pretty good friends with Wes Scantlin from Cuddle and Mud, but he's been arrested more times than I have, and he's
not good at
he
it.
got arrested for riding a suitcase conveyor belt at a major airport like Denver.
That actually sounds fun.
He got arrested in Toledo.
He did?
Yes, he came out and did a show and only played like a song and a half, and then started giving the finger to the crowd and they arrested him for disorderly conduct. He went nuts somewhere.
Well, just
He
for
walked
giving
off
the thing.
stage, threw his instruments out, smashed a couple things, and then they arrested him here. So I don't even know where he played. But yeah.
Well, but to go back to that question, you when you talk to somebody like for instance the Cars, you told me the story. You interview them a few times, then they come
Yeah.
back, you have more. Then it
was Rick.
You have this ability. This is what makes you really good on the radio, by the way, and this is what makes you just a great storyteller. Is you have the ability to start talking to someone and be very genuine, one-on-one, and very I don't know. You're just inclusive as a person, and so people start to trust you and say, "Hey, go give me some
You
weed."
have
or whatever.
empathy and you listen intently, and I think that
have to.
people aren't used to being listened to. Actually,
Oh, no, they're not. Especially in interviews. You know why?
No.
Because the interviewer is always looking for the next question and the next
Yep.
angle and sitting there with his next strategy planned already before he ever hears the response to the last thing he just asked
Right.
for.
Right.
And if you're going to have a conversation, you better have a few bullet points on a page and then sit back and get out of the way when the good stuff starts coming.
Yeah.
And don't try to make it about yourself. You came because you have a guest who's really at that moment your guest of honor. Treat them that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some of
you-
the best. Go ahead, Dan.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that's, Stash, you've done that, your whole career. And that's unusual because sometimes people start out that way, but they turn at some point.
Wow. Nobody cares about me, I think, in the first place. I mean, if I try to make it about me, it just makes the interview not as good. If I can steer it to where I think it's going to be the best as far as what I get from my guest, that's what I'm going to do, no matter what, and that's the hardest part really is to get out of the way, and let the story be told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a learned skill, but interviewing somebody, letting them say something, and then sort of going off of that. Is there anything you've ever found out about anybody that just by asking a follow-up question, you're like, whoa, that is something that nobody would have ever guessed?
Yeah, when that dude told me he was gay, I couldn't believe it. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing like really intense that comes right to mind, but I mean, yeah, like Steven Tyler, man, when he was struggling, I could relate to that, and he knew I could relate to that, and him and I have had some, over the years, I've seen him, and nothing is perfect. I mean, some of these people get clean publicly, and then struggle and stumble along the way. Believe me, man.
Yeah.
It's you want to stand up and go, hey, I mean, maybe Joe Perry never stumbled. I don't know, but I know Steven sure has.
Yeah.
And has even cried in an interview with me. Look, I do better. I don't know if it's phone or in person, but I feel like I do better with eye contact because
Sure.
I can read it so much stronger, and I never edit it. Like, I want the conversation to lay as it happened, so I don't really cut anything. I planned in the beginning to try to do something that doesn't need to be edited.
Yeah.
I look for space that's clear, I don't step, things like that. Little details that make a big difference and make it sound a different level.
Yeah, well, that's important. Speaking, you've interviewed. We've seen the pictures here. We'll have tons more in this video. But so, what has been? Give me the craziest interview you've ever done, where you're just like the one that you will tell everybody the story on.
Crazy good or crazy bad?
Either way, like just one
I've
that you-
had both. One of my favorites was when I went to England with Eddie Trunk and did the Return of Iron Maiden in 2001 when they came out with Brave New World. We spent a week in Sanctuary Studios, and I'm going to tell you, couldn't be a better group of dudes, man. All their people, the same crew forever and ever. They are the standard of live performance. I watched them rehearse for a week in there. I was able to invite people I knew from London to come on over to Sanctuary. It was that laid back. It was like we were in a pub with them for a week, and we did an American special that ran coast to coast in, North America, Canada, of course, some Pacific islands and things like that. I couldn't believe some of the places I was on. I was on K-Whale in Anchorage.
Oh my goodness. Woo! Is that where you saw the people fighting in the street?
That was a different trip. That was Ireland on St. Patrick's Day with Guinness.
Yeah.
So I've been across a couple times, man, on the radio for radio things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Give us the Guinness story. This story, I love this story.
Well, we went to give away a pub, the Shanachie Pub in Toledo, Ireland, on the Shannon River. And we flew from JFK to Shannon right before St. Patrick's Day. And the target was to give it away to an American contest winner on St. Patrick's Day. So we get there, and the pub winners were selected. They were a couple from Charlotte, North Carolina. And there were radio people there from all over the country from major markets to do the promotion. And I was there from Baltimore, along with my promotion director friend, Jim Yates. And did you ever meet Jim Yates, Danny, when you were there?
I don't think I did. No.
Came after you. He got the golden card and got to come with me and be my assistant.
Nice.
And Alan Prell from WBAL also went on the trip. And so we all went there, people from San Diego and, MMR in Philly and everywhere. And so we spent the week in this pub in this wonderful town of 1,800 people in the middle of Ireland in County Clare, which was the patchwork quilt looking like hills and a little bit of snow on the top in the mornings. And the St. Patrick's Day scene was so wild because I never would have believed the way it goes down. First of all, there was a medieval looking bridge going across the river, and there was a settlement on both sides of the Shannon River. So, hey, Pete Townsend, Shannon River, all along the river were restaurants, really good ones, and where you swore they went out back and met the cow and sacrificed him and brought the meat in and cooked it and served it to you and picked the vegetables outside too. Yeah. I mean, there was that good. Guinness knew where to eat for sure. And so everyone eats, okay, first. The parade happens. Then the restaurants fill up. Everyone eats. All families in the pubs too. And then because the pubs all serve soup and everything else. And then around 6 o'clock, if you're tall enough to get a drink over the bar, you can have one. I mean, there are goats and things in the bars. Everybody's there. So as time goes on into the night, there's little hum and strum acoustic people playing Red Hot Chili Pepper songs and stuff like that. I was like, what? Oh, yeah. But they were playing American music is, of course, big everywhere. And so, yeah, they're closing the pub at 11. And when they close the pub, last call at 11, absolute everyone out at 11:30. That's the standard there in the UK. So and in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. So everyone empties into the street. The Callahans are a big family. The O'Riordans are a big family, and so they don't like each other on especially this day. So they're both super drunk, and there's women, teenagers, old men, everyone. Family feud, start fighting, man. I mean, there's people throwing haymakers at everybody. They're in the middle of the street. The Callahans versus the O'Riordans. So all the people like me who are guests, who get ready to leave on Sunday, or with a buzz, or want to be like, yeah, man, let me get in there. People are like, leave them alone. And the man said, they'll all be friends in the morning. And I believe they were.
Who won, the O'Riordans or the Callahans?
I just don't even know. I couldn't tell who was who. It was like seeing the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, where you can't tell who's in the band and who's dancing from the crowd. Exactly what it was like.
Oh, man.
I love it. I love this picture, too. That's M&T Bank Stadium. That's Summer Sanitarium. That's Metallica. It's James Hetfield. And that day they had Korn, Kid Rock. They also had System of a Down. And they had somebody else too. They had 5 bands total, I believe. But when Kid Rock came on, I was broadcasted with Kirk in that booth right there in that skybox, and we were talking about Joe C. And he's a small man in Kid Rock's band. Yeah, 3'9". and we were talking about the midget in Kid Rock's band and how Kid Rock's show was kind of a circus sideshow in a lot of ways. Yeah. Even though, some of the people were talented up there, they were also, they had another chick drummer with like a big bouffant like afro, to like say, hey, look at me, and then the little 3'9" guy running, look at me, everybody
did he sing? Or
everybody had a hook. Yeah, your little rapping thing.
He did.
Joe C. Well, Joe C., rest in peace, man. I mean, we didn't mean any disrespect at all, but we were like, yeah, the midget, the midget. And so.
Which, by the way, you can't say that anymore. Yeah. They like little
yes,
people.
Yes, you can. I'm saying it right now on Detroit television. They have a midget wrestling thing, and I'm on all the cable channels in Detroit talking about Dream Girls right this minute. I just did the spot yesterday. Then the beginning is the midgets are coming. The midgets are coming.
Stop it.
Swear to God, I'll play it for you here.
Is that like what is
yes.
that? Yeah.
And so then Jason Newsted from Metallica was coming to the show in his driving car, whoever's driving him. They had on 98 Rock, and he was listening to what we were saying, and he did not like it very much. And he was friends with Joe C. He did not enjoy our commentary about the Kid Rock set or Joe C. So when he got to the venue, he wanted to find me and Kirk.
Oh, boy.
And talk to us about it. And so that booth that you just saw us sitting in, he came to the door of.
Oh, and he was pissed?
Oh, yeah. He was really, really pissed. He wanted to fight. He wanted to fight me and Kirk together.
Well, you needed the O'Callahans at that point.
We needed the Callahans. No, the O'Riordans. The O'Riordans won. They won that one. Jason Newsted wanted to fight.
Yeah.
Like he had his shirt off.
You and Kirk against one? No, that's not even. You guys would have killed him.
Oh, no, he had his shirt off. He was like, blah, blah. He was like out of his mind. So they got him to go away. We're like, oh, good. Thanks. So then that's when James Hetfield came in, and I had no idea, but this is something I found out on the ground floor, on the bottom. They were having struggles. Jason was about to leave the band at the time, and Jason was gone when James came in. And when James came in, they were not going to be together no matter what, but James said, man, y'all really pissed off Jason. He was happy about it.
He was excited.
He was like, y'all pissed him off. Yeah, so yeah, we did. But about being friends with people, man, you don't know. I don't assume that I'm friends with any of these people that have something in the shop window when they come on my show. They're there strictly to sell something. And I think people need to, anybody that's paying any attention at all can see that anyone that shows up on late night television or any radio in any capacity where they're full on wide open for an interview, they're selling something. They're not just giving it away. Their time has been scheduled out in a promo tour of some sort. You'll see the same people on the Today Show, and then they show up on Kelly Ripa, because they got to walk 8 blocks to her, but they're on the same national, TV promotional wheel in the same day sometimes. Well, sometimes I would have I would like to chase people that you would normally hear, for one, especially on 98 Rock. I would like to get people that were compelling, just period, as people, movie stars. Like, that's why I love Jamie Foxx. I just love him. Just feel for him having what's going on with him right now. But because he, obviously they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I got that one on the air. They don't want to talk about it because from what I've heard within, he had some kind of brain.
Well, he had a stroke, I heard.
Yeah.
And
aneurysm
they
or a
keep
stroke.
releasing this weird. See, here's what I don't understand. Not to get too off, because this is about you, but they keep releasing these like weird things. Like he's okay. He's playing pickleball. He's not playing pickleball. He's laying in a hospital bed.
You know what? So because he's worried that if you go full on and tell the story, that he might not be working again at the capacity where he was before. Yeah. That people won't trust him in a role, if he's got lingering issues. And I can tell you, he's going to have them. Oh. If he doesn't. And I can tell you how I know that what it can be. Everybody's different, man. Believe me. You can recover completely from a stroke if you have immediate care and you have, God brings you all the way back, really. Sure. But Mark McHugh, Kirk's brother, had a stroke in 2005. He was one of my favorite people ever on TV and radio. He had the warmth of 20 people within one. He's just so good at it. And he's the reason me and Kirk are on, really, most of all. and why we are who we are. Because he's always was able. He handled some huge stars, Denzel Washington, David Bowie. You know, he could really have grace with people that were just beyond your imagination, bigger than life.
Yeah.
You know, and he had a stroke in 2005, and he was working as a TV anchor in Orlando. And man, they kept paying him, and they kept paying him because they thought he was going to make a comeback and get all the way back, and he never did quite get all the way back. And now he's a substitute teacher, and he drives for Uber. Dude,
man, God.
You know, because something like that, like I can see the fear in Jamie Foxx's eyes. It can wreck you financially.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you can't work, what you have is what you have, dude. You know, and if you're of age to still be working, which Jamie sure is and Mark was, you don't anticipate something like that taking you out.
Hell no.
Yeah.
You know, where you've still got, you feel like in your head, you got 15, 20 good years left in you.
Sure.
You know, and you're going to be fine.
Now, who's this?
That is Lou Gramm from Foreigner.
Oh, I thought that was Brendan. I thought that was Brendan Fraser. I was like, what?
No, that's Lou Gramm back in the days of Foreigner, when Foreigner was the four. It was Lou, you know, Mick Jones. It was Rick Wills on bass. It was the real thing.
You know, I was talking to one of my friends, and I started talking because I like Foreigner, and then you start like naming their song, dude. They had some bangers, dude.
Oh, they
like
were,
a lot of them.
They were amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
man.
they, like,
Unbelievable
I think
band.
they're underrated, man.
Of course they are.
I don't know Lou
They should have
Gramm
been in
thing.
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a long time ago.
Yeah.
They have so many hits, so many great songs. They don't sound the same. They've got sax in some of them. You know, think about the sax solo in Urgent. That sax solo stands up to any ever done in any song. It's ridiculous. It's as good as Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, and Lou Gramm actually has a guy on tour that can hit it out of the park. He's just perfect with it. And Lou can still sing the songs somewhat. When I was at Q94, I did a show with Lou Gramm. After that was at Hammerjacks, the picture you just saw. Foreigner played freaking Hammerjacks.
Dude, Hammerjacks.
Nuts.
Can you when they were full strength, dude? They played head games. Oh my.
Oh my.
Yeah.
No wonder you love the beach. We were at the beach the other day. You got all excited.
Well, that's the Bahamas right there.
Yeah.
We were in Indiana.
Not the Bahamas.
Not that the water looked that much different. Lake Michigan is incredible, dude.
Yeah.
It's really blue. Anyone who hasn't seen Lake Michigan should make the trip and see it. It is a blue piece of water. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really clean. But that picture was taken on a Ravens calendar shoot in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And I got lucky where I was on the flagship for the Baltimore Ravens, but I was part of that calendar shoot and ended up being in the calendar too.
What? You're in the cheerleader? I'd be pissed if I turned the page and you're like
I'm on
the
the
march.
last page. When it's time to go, you get me.
Definitely.
I help you right along. I help you transition out.
Oh my God, that's the best. All right, so you've been in radio, you've seen a ton, you've worked with a ton of people. What is the craziest firing you've ever seen? Somebody, not yourself, but somebody else. Say you went to the station, or you heard, or whatever, or somebody called you. What is something?
Oh man, I've seen people get led out of the building where they weren't allowed to get their own stuff. That's really scary.
That's a tough one.
Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yeah, a couple times.
Where you were led out and they boxed your stuff later?
Yeah,
and
once.
Gave it to you.
Yeah, once that happened. Once that happened to me. But
That's demoralizing.
that's tough right there, man.
Well, especially if they're like super chummy to you 20 minutes before that, which can happen.
Yeah.
Like when I got fired, I've only been fired from a couple of places, but I got fired from the Bay because it was going to be either me or the GM, and the GM was going to win that one. And I was pretty sure when the pandemic came that they were going to cut me because they couldn't pay me. And they weren't paying me much anyway, but their revenue stream went to a trickle. And I could see it coming. We were trying to keep businesses alive. That's what we were doing on the air. We weren't even they weren't selling hardly any ad,
right?
Nothing. They were going out and doing gratis videos in front of businesses to say, hey, these guys are doing to go. I mean, if you can, it doesn't seem like, dude, it seems like it was a different lifetime is what it seems like now.
It does. Yeah.
But wow, it was only 3 years ago, man. 3 years ago right now, this was happening.
Yeah.
And the world was closed, and woo, man, I got fired, and I knew I was going to get fired, and it wasn't rude. It was, I got fired at 9:50 after my show. And when Matt Davis came in, he said, "Wow, everybody's here this morning. Jefferson and Huber and everybody." I said, "Oh, I'm getting fired today." I said that to him. I knew it. Because Jefferson was 11 a.m. GM. He never came in before 11 o'clock.
11 a.m. GM.
Yeah, he was 11 a.m. GM. He came in with his suit and tie on, all crispy and ready in the middle of your day.
Crispy and ready.
Yeah. All right. You're all gung-ho and ready to go, sir.
Well, it's bad when you open the door and the HR lady's in there. You're like, okay, we're done here.
I didn't have that. Nope. I had a 2-on-1 where it was Huber with his spine equaling 0 and Jefferson, who was the main driver, made all the horrible deals with all the different people there. He was paying people barely lunch money that just wanted to be on the radio and were good enough to be. But however, he ended up retiring after he fired me. But I think he got a two-handed push. Yeah, that's my estimation.
Yeah.
Because the station wasn't performing well after I left. I know that.
Yeah.
And they didn't have an answer for me leaving, even though it was a pandemic,
Yeah.
Look, they didn't have anybody that had any name recognition really left on the station, in my opinion, and I'm not going to, be a jackass about it, but look, it's true.
Let's talk about this, man, because this is not they have these little best ofs in every city where you can pay to vote and all this other weird stuff. This happens to be a prestigious award that I know for a fact of this magazine. It is an honor, and you not only won that once, but you won that twice, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's crazy, huh?
That's nuts, man, because this isn't one of those things where people just vote online. This is seriously talking to your peers, and you weren't even. So talk about the first one you won here in 2001.
I'd been there 12 years, and I was doing afternoons, and they came in with a camera crew in the middle of my show, and they wouldn't tell me why they were there. I said, "What is going on here?" They were setting up like those like photo screens and lighting and all that. I'm like, "What are you doing?" They said, "We just need some pictures of the studio, and we need some pictures of you just doing your thing." I said, "Oh, who are you with? Where are you from?" "Nah, man, just a little trade thing." "Oh, okay." So I got surprised by the layout and the award and everything when the magazine came out. I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
It was wild. Yeah. And the people that did know were just my GM and my program director. They were the only two that knew in the building. So, and then in 2008, I got it again. I don't even know what I was doing that was that much different or special, but I was absolutely blown away by that, man.
Yeah.
That's because no one I know, they move that award around a lot. They don't even call it the same thing every year. It's sometimes they'll give one radio award to encompass all of radio, including talk shows, news, radio, whatever. And to get it was crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you definitely have changed, a lot of people's, opinion of how radios. You're just very good at it, man, and that's why I wanted you to have on here. You definitely, you're so humble. You won't know that. You're pretty good at it.
Pretty good.
Come on, man. I want to go to Red Wing Shoes and maul me.
Hey, I did that spot.
I know you did. It's a good spot. I told you to go keep it. You should keep that one.
Yeah. What do you think radio in 2023, as opposed to we just saw there in 2001? What is the big difference, and what do you think that radio is doing wrong at this point?
Man, we've seen the evolution of everything. We've seen radio go from records for real and little 8-track looking tapes to play the commercials in prehistoric looking equipment now to completely computerized, 100% top to bottom, like everything else in this world. And internet has happened, and the advent of everyone having to not only, look, when we started with cell phones, my program director had a phone in his car. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. He's a big shot. He's got a phone in his car. Yeah. Oh, my God. And then people called the radio, of course, because there was no other way to connect with music. There was no other way really to... Radio was the front and center of everything. And so if you were on the radio, you were somebody that everyone knew then, because it was a real priority. And if you had a fun station, everyone heard you. Yeah. And that's why 98 Rock was such a big deal, because it was the timing of it. We had a club to match it right downtown that could handle all the live things we could put through there. The biggest bands in the world would be sitting at the bar in there: Motley Crue, Ozzy, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, everybody. I mean, my goodness, Kiss. I have pictures of so many people that weren't playing that night in Hammerjacks at Hammerjacks. Brian May from Queen. That's at Hammerjacks on the steps. You know, we're holding drinks.
Boy, you guys are definitely comparing mullets there, man. Can we go back to that? Boy, those are under the fro/mullet. I'm trying to figure out who won that. Can you put that back up, Ash?
My mullet.
You were good there, boy. I mean, his is a little bit better. He's a rock star, but look at that thing. I thought that was a wig.
It's thick, really thick. No. It was a good one, man.
Yeah. So what are you guys talking about? Is that a cow? Is that a cow?
It's like a cow. Yeah, like a
cow vest.
A vest, like a cow print vest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about there? He actually doesn't even look very happy.
Oh no, it's just a matter of that snap. No, he was super happy. We were talking about how Cozy Powell was playing drums with him, and Cozy Powell's one of the greatest drummers of all time, I think. And may he rest in peace. But yeah, we talked about all kinds of stuff. Like I would try not to talk about. We talk about soccer, you know, talk about stuff like that. I wouldn't drill him as the question machine in a chill environment like that.
Yeah. Hammerjacks, dude. Could you just talk about that for a second, dude? That place, man. I mean, you kind of touched on it, but for a bar, this is a bar. It's not like an arena, guys. This is like if you're not familiar.
A bar.
Yeah, it's a bar.
It was definitely a bar. It was about a 2,000 person capacity, really, but probably not quite that many. 16 to 1,800 was really full in the concert side. Then they had a whole club side that could be going on while there was a concert on the concert side. And it was a magical place. I'm in the movie about the place a lot because I kind of lived there. And Stevie Whiteman lived there too.
Yes.
Yeah, that picture right there's on a cruise, actually. That's on Kicks is a big deal on the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Is that the M Fork?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the
Hammerjacks has a movie out? I didn't even know that.
Yes, the Hammerjacks rockumentary, and it's premiered in a few places, and it's getting pretty good distribution, and it'll probably end up on Access Television or something on cable. Everyone is in it. I mean, they spent like 5 years collecting, pieces from people. So everybody it's really good.
Is it like really narrated or?
Oh yeah, it's full on. It's narrated by people like me, like the talking head person that pops up. I mean, they interviewed me, but my piece went throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it was impressive, dude. Believe me, I couldn't believe it, Danny, because I went to see it for the first time at the premiere with everyone else, and I had no idea when I was going to be showing up. I just knew that they told me I was in it somewhere, and then within the first 5 minutes, I was in it. And then I was in it again, and then I was in it again, and then between me and Dave Simmons from DC Star and Steve Whiteman, and I mean there were a few people that were in it a lot, and
that place was, it's so iconic of everything that, like you say, the timing of 98 Rock at the time, that bar, live music was just
everything. The
bands that were coming out, I mean, it just was. I don't know, the perfect storm of greatness. I don't know. It was great.
It was, because everyone that was on tour ended up coming through there. It was one of those bucket list places at the end. Like Pantera played there, Rancid, Offspring, White Zombie, along with, we had Poison in there. Poison played a
Black
bar.
Crows. I remember
I hosted the Black Crows.
Yeah.
God, I hosted the Black Crows, man. And I was so nervous because when you're on the side of the stage and you're waiting for your cue, and the Black Crows had candles lit all around, like all the railings and everything. And it was almost like a temple ready to like open up for a service. And I was the first one out. Oh, it was wild.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you've been on stage a bunch. You've introduced a bunch. You've been on the Monsters of Rock. You've done a lot of stuff. Has there ever been a time when you were nervous going out on stage?
Oh, yeah.
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 Which one?
When Larry the Cable Guy, who became a superstar right before our eyes at 98 Rock, started as a caller to the station.
He started as a caller?
Well, he called 3 stations. He called us, JRR in Orlando, and XTV in Tampa. He was doing 3 phone bits a day and getting like $20 a piece for them. And seriously. And Dan Whitney. His name is Dan Whitney. You get Dan on the phone? Yeah, I got him. He's on hold.
And he just did like a little
he created the character Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
It's a character. So, yeah. And I mean, his Dan Whitney from Nebraska, man. Yeah. And so Dan, would come on. He would do some commentary. And over time, he would become a superstar. So he sold out the Baltimore arena. And the deal was I was going to go out with Kirk and Mark, and we were going to do a three-way thing bringing him on, kind of a banter. And then when it was time to go, and I mean sold out to the top, 13-5. When it was time to go, no Kirk. No Mark.
What do you mean? They just didn't show up?
They just weren't there. You don't get to wait when it's something like that.
Yeah, ain't nobody. 13,000 people are not waiting.
If you're not in the place you're supposed to be, they keep going.
Yeah. What year was this?
Oh, this was like 2011.
All right. So did you have a cell phone? Did you call him, Kurt? Like, bro, where are you, man? I am not.
No, it wasn't 2011 because they were gone by then. It was in the 2000s though. It was it was well into their career where they were. Kirk and Mark were a big deal too, and Larry was part of their show. I mean, he was always on. So,
so what happened? They just said, Stash, you got to go do it.
I went out there and did like 45 seconds. I just barked out a few quick one-liners, and
so you did a stand-up piece.
You have to. You can't just bring on a comedian. You got to do a little something. If you're the MC of a comedy show, you better have some jokes.
Well, did you remember what you said?
I can talk about prisons and shit all day long.
Yeah, but I mean, anybody can talk about anything, but we're talking about jokes. Jokes are it's a little different.
Yeah, you just,
You go, well, give me a little bit. Like what?
Well, I don't remember what I said out there. That's 15, 20 years ago. But no, I have about 5 minutes of, you got to come out and
drop. To me, so see, I've been on stage a bunch too. I've been in front of people. I've been in front of big crowds, small. I don't know how comedian. I could not do the comedian thing. That to me is the scariest thing.
The hardest part of it to me is the lights. The lights are, if you go to a comedy club that has really bright lights, that's very difficult to focus when that light is beaming you down and you can't see the crowd, because then you can't gauge eye contact or reaction, or if you can only tell if they're paying attention if they start talking to each other, and
that's never good. When they start talking to each other, that's when it's not good.
That's never a good sign. Hold on, everybody, I'm funny, I swear to God. No, Jeremy Piven, man, he came out, and on the way when I brought him out, man, he came up to me and he leaned in my ear. He goes, "How am I supposed to follow prisons as shit?" I said,
"Hey, good luck, man."
Bro, go ahead. Because those two go together really well.
Oh my God.
When you're in prison, all you smell is shit.
Oh my.
You smell shit everywhere. Eating, everywhere you go. Water fountain. You go to the medical.
I've worked in some buildings
like that. You get some
that.
wafts of shit. There's always, everybody has the same food going down their neck, and they can crank out completely different smells out of their butt. It's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
What is going on inside you that's different from me? I thought we were all the same. We're all the same. No, we're not.
No,
we're not. I'll tell you right now. I smelled some things I'd never want to smell again when I was in there. And it started with the shit.
Yeah.
Everybody's taking a shit. It's like all of a sudden there's no explanation, but there's people waiting to take a shit. It's like, what? We had the same amount of food. I saw it. Come on, man. Well, your body put that all in a neat pile for you.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
God, don't bring it over here.
Oh, well, we're going to end on that bit, actually.
Yeah.
That is very good.
Shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, a fantastic career, Stash. Thank you for going off the air and coming on the record with Danny and myself.
Oh, my.
You know what? I'm a big fan. I will always be a big fan.
I want to thank my mother for staying through the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, family, man, they're important, bro.
Yeah.
They're important.
She's with me every step. She's 82.
Why don't you give yourself a plug here while we're live on YouTube and stuff to what you're doing now? People
My
can
goodness,
catch you.
man. I'm on 10 to 2 every day on WXKR. That's 94.5, and it's WXKR, letters WXKR.com, the listen live button, and every day we're live. So I'm standing there in Toledo where Girlie on IoT she's in Houston, and I'm shouting to her. She can't hear me. I'm like, Teresa, where are you? Do you understand that we have smoke in the air? Here, Teresa. Have you ever smelled smoke, Teresa?
She is not live, and you are.
She is not. She was taped yesterday, and she cannot react to anything that didn't happen yesterday.
All right.
Today is mine.
Yes.
There you go.
every day thereafter as
That's
well.
right.
Day.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for hanging out with us. Our time is up. Radio legend Stash, thank you for joining us on tonight's episode. I know I've been bugging you to death to get out here. Now you got to pull your weight. We want Kirk McEwen on this very broadcast.
Oh, goodness. I'll be able to do that.
Yes, I'll send you a link
shall.
and do that so you can say, look, bro, you got to be next, man, because we want very talented people who are exciting to talk to.
Yeah.
So
He'll tell some great stories that I didn't tell. Believe me, man. He's got a few. Like the 21-31 Cal Ripken game. We did a 12-hour live broadcast. Let him tell you that one.
oh, wow.
All right. We'll leave
That
that
was
to
so
him.
fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much to everybody. Make sure you hit share, like, and comment. Make sure you hit subscribe if you like this kind of content. And when you hear about your favorite radio DJs right here on this channel, hopefully soon we'll have hundreds of different people all over the country doing the same thing. Dan, any final thoughts?
Well, look, I mean, again, it was, I didn't get very long time to work with Stash because Russ fired me. But the time
So
I had
crazy.
was a lot of fun. And I used to live right behind Stash and Kirk in Fells Point. And so we had some good times then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you guys have, you worked at an iconic radio station for sure. 98 Rock is one of those ones.
Oh, let me tell you this before we go.
Yeah.
That apartment at 702 South Wolf Street in 1990 was $925 a month.
Yeah.
The one I live in right now is not $1,000. In 2023 in Toledo, I pay $970.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
I'm in a high rise, dude.
Yeah,
like
you're on, like,
with
the
like
14th floor.
valet action and stuff.
Love
like,
it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how crazy is that?
Well, how crazy is this? The not to throw Danny's business, but I used to live with her downtown when I was working at B104. And by living with her, I basically just crashed. And that's how much was your apartment on that street, Dan? Tell everybody that was in the 400s.
Yeah,
What?
I had a little 2-story, 2-bedroom place in that warehouse right in the front. I think I paid $475.
Oh my God, that was a good location.
Oh, that was great, dude.
Excellent
Fells Point.
location.
That was Thames Street, Thames.
Thames Street.
They would be
Yeah.
like, no, it's not Thames, it's Thames.
No,
it's like
Thames
like
Street,
here. If you
Thames
live here,
Street.
it's not Oregon, it's Oregon.
Oh, the Oregon. I hate that Oregon, man.
Oh, is it really? And it's Nevada? Oh, come on. Where did you go to school?
Nevada.
Stop it.
I love it, man.
Don't mess that up.
Oh, that's great. Well, Stash, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Vicky, for checking in. We appreciate you there. You can catch us-
Vicky?
Yeah, Vicky from Finley just checked in live on our
Oh,
YouTube
dude,
channel.
I love that.
Yeah, so you can catch him, Vicky, right on 94.5 XKR.
Yeah.
And actually, you guys booming to
And
Finley.
you can go ahead to Mall Me and buy some wing
Red
stop.
Wings.
I'm getting them mixed up with a Buffalo wing place. Wing Stop, Wing Express.
No, Red Wing is
Red
what it's
Wing.
called. It's not. It's
Right.
not. It's
Shoes
a
and
boot
wings.
store. It's not a wing place. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it off the air. We got to get out of here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Ash,
See ya.
thank you for producing this fantastic show live. We love you. One of the greatest producers of all time. We love him right here. Dan, thank you for hanging out. The brother-sister morning show combo and another great episode of Off the Air and On the Record.